Welcome back to Yasha Uncensored. Today we're opening a case file that most modern historians have tried to archive and forget. We're performing a forensic audit on the original source code of Mesopotamian history, the work of Sir Henry Rawlinson and the 19th century pioneers. Modern textbooks will tell you the Sumerian language is an isolate, a dead end. But when we look at the original audit from the 1850s, we see a different story. They found an etymological forensic residue that leads straight to a Cushite migration. I've identified 3 pillars of evidence they used, which today's establishments ignores. Pillar 1, the Nimrod anchor. Rawlinson and his peers didn't guess. They used the Table of Nations as their database. They audited the place names like Kish and recognized them as vestigial markers of Cush. To them, the city wasn't just a location. It was a signature of a foundational migration from the south. Pillar 2, the agglutinative code. Look at the grammar. Samaritan is agglutinative. It builds words like Lego blocks. It is completely alien to the inflicting Semitic languages. The 19th century masters labeled this structure Sintho-Kushite because it matches the linguistic patterns of the early populations in Ethiopia and southern Arabia. They were reading the source codes as a global movement. Pillar 3, the non-Semitic substratum. This is the smoking gun. Rawlinson proves that before the Semitic Akkadians, there was a pre-existing layer of civilization, a substratum. Modern academia calls this an isolate and stops the investigation. But the pioneers who actually pulled these tablets from the dirt concluded it was a Cushite foundation. Here's my question for you, the viewers. If the grammatical structure remained the same as it was in 1850, why did the labels change? Did the evidence evolve, or did the narrative just get scrubbed to fit a different map? We're going to follow the trail, because if the original architects left their signature, I am going to find it. Let's get into the third pillar of this audit, the substratum. In modern linguistics, when scholars encounter the Sumerian language, a language that doesn't fit into the Semitic or Indo-European families, they call it a language isolate. That's a polite academic way of saying we don't know where it come from, and we're going to stop asking. But if you look at the forensic record from men who actually unearthed these tablets, they didn't treat it as an isolate. They treated it as a substratum. A substratum is a layer of history that sits beneath the surface. Rawlinson and his peers recognized that the Semitic Akkadians were latecomers to the Mesopotamian valley. Beneath them, there was a foundation, non-Semitic architecture of language and law that predated them entirely. When Rawlinson audited this deeper layer, he didn't see an isolate. He saw a linguistic lineage that connected back to the Cushite stock of the ancient world. I think about the implications here. By labeling it an isolate, Modern academia isolates the Sumerians from the rest of the human family. It turns them into a ghost civilization that just appeared out of nowhere. But by labeling it a Cushite substratum, you immediately restore their place in a wider, interconnected map of ancient human migration. So I have to ask, why did the map change? The cuneiform data hasn't changed. The geography hasn't changed. The only thing that changed is the name we're allowed to use to describe it. I'm here to audit that change. We're moving past the isolate label to see exactly what lies beneath the surface of the Mesopotamian record. We've established that the Sumerian foundation is a substratum, a deep, non-Semitic layer that predates the Akkadians. But what does that look like in the real world? How do we audit a ghost civilization? We look for the architectural signature. Forensic lexical auditing isn't about just words. It's about the underlying logic of the culture. When Rawlinson and his team audited the records of the earliest Mesopotamian cities, they didn't just find a language. They found a system of management that had no precedent in the region. We're talking about the ziggurat high place architecture. This tiered mountain-like construction mimics the natural geography of the highlands where these people migrated from, not the flat alluvial plains of the Euphrates. Legal administrative coding. The earliest Sumerian administrative text used a system of law that emphasizes communal, kin-based governance, a signature trait of the Cushite descendant societies that Rawlinson documented. Irrigation and water engineering. The source code for managing water in the valley relied on engineering principles that the pioneers of the field linked directly to the hydraulic mastery found in the older southern regions. These aren't just artifacts, they are system exports. When we see these complex systems of law, agriculture, and engineering appearing fully formed at the dawn of Sumer, it proves the isolate theory is a failure. You don't get a fully formed civilization out of thin air. You get it from a provenance. The Rawlinson audit proves the provenance wasn't a mystery. It was a lineage. By ignoring the Cushite substratum, modern history isn't just missing a piece of the puzzle, they're throwing the entire box away. I'm Yasha, and on this channel, we don't accept mystery as an answer when the evidence is clearly labeled in the original archives. Specifically, look at the titles. When the early rulers of these cities identified themselves, they didn't just use local names. They used descriptors and royal markers that mirror the lineage traditions of the South. These inscriptions, which many modern academics treat as ambiguous, are the primary documents Rawlinson and his peers used to map the migration. They were essentially signing their own history, leaving a trail that modern isolate theories try to erase. When I look at this tablet, I don't see a mystery. I see a signature. So here's my final audit for you. The history you've been taught isn't a settled fact. It is a carefully curated narrative, and you have the right to challenge it. My role here is simple. I am claiming the original archives. I am stripping away the modern sanitized labels to show you what the pioneers actually documented. But I can't do this alone. If you're tired of that mystery narrative, if you want the truth behind the source code, then subscribe to Yasha Uncensored. We're going to continue this audit, piece by piece, until the full record is back on the table. History is a crime scene, and I'm not leaving until we've uncovered the truth.